Hello, friends. Welcome to the 8th episode of the Schoolyard podcast, brought to you by School Specialty. I'm your host, Nancy Chung, a fun-loving teacher and content creator, also known as Fancy Nancy in 5th on social media, and I'm thrilled that you're here. A special shout out to School Specialty, who offers essential educational supplies and complete learning environment solutions to help you transform more than classrooms. This is the Schoolyard podcast, a podcast by educators for educators where the magic of learning unfolds. Physical well-being is crucial for teachers and students alike as it directly impacts their overall performance and productivity. When teachers are healthy, they can effectively engage with their students and create a positive learning environment. Similarly, when students are physically fit, they can concentrate better and actively participate in classroom activities. In this episode, our guest Maya Evans and I will be discussing the benefits of physical wellness for teachers and students. Maya is a certified school psychologist, a personal trainer, and CEO and founder of Mental and Muscle. Welcome to the Schoolyard, Maya. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here today.
Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business with the coolest name, Mental and Muscle?
Yeah, so thank you for your introduction. Mental and Muscle is all about increasing our mental and physical well-being. So anything that you could think of, I'm pretty much involved in that. So myself as a certified school psychologist, mind body wellness coach, as well as personal trainer, group fitness instructor, I found myself at a crossroads because I'm very interested, I have a passion for both mental health and physical health. And in our industries today, it's very much a divide. You have good mental health, you're so focused on that, you don't take time for yourself, or you're good with your physical health, but maybe your mental health is struggling. And I found this need for promotion and education around the importance of both simultaneously, not just one or the other. And so that's where my platform, brand, and now business came about. I go around doing right now, focused on really education on this concept of the importance of both mental and physical wellness, how they both interact with each other, and really educating people on how to get started on finding a balance in well-being between both. And I have been for several years now involved in both as a certified school psychologist, started off working for the school districts, and am now in private practice, and then also going into community spaces, gyms, and online spaces for physical well-being as well. But beyond that, I have been an athlete myself since I can remember, honestly, as a kid. There were kids watching cartoons, wake up and watch cartoons. I would wake up and watch, I guess, what you'd now consider like HIIT and boot camp exercises. I would watch those as a kid on the TV screen. I guess that was an indication of just how much I really enjoy wellness. It's been a part of my life. As a kid, my parents both were runners. So I went on for about a decade to run track competitively, and now do strength and conditioning exercises myself, as well as training for particularly athletes, current youth athletes that want to gain strength and speed development. So just a little bit about me and where that love for fitness really came in.
Well, there has been so much emphasis on social emotional learning in schools. There's a huge emphasis on like the mental health and the whole emotional well-being. How does physical activity and exercise contribute to that?
Yes, very important. I mean, the two go hand in hand. I would say that now, and the statistics will show that there's less than a quarter of people, our general population, that are getting the physical exercise or just movement that they need daily. We are in this generation that we can get everything come instantly. We can, with a click of a button, we aren't getting as much movement in throughout the day that we need. A lot of us have these sedentary lifestyles without even realizing it, because we're sitting for up to 8 hours a day, especially those in school. So students, they're being adapted to these sedentary lifestyles, and without even really knowing that that's what's setting them up to be comfortable for sitting for up to 8 hours a day. And they're just doing what they're told. But then that behavior, learned behavior over several years of schooling, translates as an adult to, I'm comfortable with just sitting here, maybe with a desk job, and not getting up because I've been adjusted to that throughout the school day. And so it impacts students, it impacts teachers as well, that may be sitting or just not even getting outside of the classroom, not getting sunlight. I know that was a big thing being in the school setting, that not getting enough sunlight throughout the day. And for those that have sedentary lifestyles, depression is significantly more likely when you're not getting that movement, because you have going into a little bit of psychology behind it, lower dopamine levels, where you don't have that you don't get excited, you aren't motivated as much as someone that can get that natural dopamine from movement and exercise. And we're seeing
as you're talking, as you're talking, I'm thinking of like during the pandemic when we had virtual learning and kids were just in front of the screen and they were just sitting at home. And so teachers were focusing so much on like the mental health, but I think the physical health was kind of being neglected and forgotten.
And it's interlaced. So you can sit here and we can talk about mental health, but if you aren't also getting the movement in and also feeling good about yourself physically, it can translate back over to the low self-esteem, or just not feeling confident about where you are, not feeling healthy, not feeling like you're maybe not getting enough sleep, or just different things like that come with the physical health side of things.
Right. Sitting here going guilty, guilty, guilty.
No, trust me, I worked in the schools too. And it didn't, I remember, I'll never forget when one of my teachers came to me and was like, "Ma, you're not seeming like yourself." And it was a wake up call to me, being in the schools. And I was like, I'm not getting sunlight. I've been trapped in this room. As a school psychologist, have a little to no space in your classroom or in your office if you get one. And it was just seeing, couldn't even notice, because you're just doing as you're supposed to. I'm sitting there on the computer, I'm typing up reports. Teachers are sitting in their classrooms, students sitting in the classroom, and we're not seeing why we're having these issues with our physical and mental health.
Yeah. What are some effective strategies or interventions that can be implemented to promote physical well-being among not just students, but teachers as well?
Yeah, well, so there's a lot of talk around it, right? There's a lot of talk around you need to be more physical, you need to go exercise, you need to go do this for your mental health, go do self-care. But about 65% of us need visual learning. We need to be shown what we're supposed to do. And so that aspect, I feel like, is missing in a practical way. And we're told, go, work out for an hour at the gym. For some people, that's not feasible for several different reasons: for time, for money, location of the gym. And so what I really talk to people about is meeting them where they're at, which is hard in the school setting, right? Because you have a class of several different students coming from different backgrounds, but just getting students to think and have examples of ways that we can practice better physical well-being. And maybe that means starting in the classroom. So one thing I like to do is go around and teaching seated stretches, starting there with seated stretches, things that the teacher can teach the students, and then the students can do it anytime during the classroom, during class. And it's not disruptive to everyone else. You're not getting out of your seat. Little things like moving your head, your neck side to side. I go through a whole full body stretch is one, and those can be translated to sitting at home and anything like that. But beyond that, we would love for opportunities to get out of the chair, and whether that's 5-minute movement breaks by the teachers. And that can be, movement can be you're picking up things in the classroom, but emphasizing that and making that connection that that's what we're doing, is we're getting this movement in, not just I want you to clean the classroom, but I want this to be an opportunity to get up out of our seats, to get some movement in. That's another one. Dancing is another
Mm-hmm.
practical
Uh-huh. We have like
practical
quick little
one.
dance breaks in
Yeah,
my
quick
class.
little dance break, especially for the young ones, the young
Uh-huh.
kids. But even now, I mean, I, some of the teachers could do like, we could have a TikTok break with some of the older kids. They're sitting around.
Uh-huh.
I know in high school, I couldn't turn a corner without getting caught in a TikTok from
Like the
students in
TikTok
the
challenge. Yeah.
hallway. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
That is
even
so funny.
that's a form of movement.
Uh-huh.
One thing I did during the pandemic, since the kids were at home, was start kind of like a group fitness online, and with
Mm-hmm.
the students, teachers were available to attend. A couple, I even saw some parents in the background of some of
Mm.
these, and they would be, we had a couple times we had it during school, but sometimes it'd be after school where
Uh-huh.
I would teach just some workout, about 30 minutes, nothing
Uh-huh.
long, nothing too intense, but it would be enough. What the recommendation is to get that moderate to more high exercise where it's getting your heart rate beating
Mm-hmm.
from more than just a sedentary or resting heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I would lead that over the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, just to teach them you can get a good workout in the
Mm-hmm.
minimum 30 minutes a
Right.
day from
Mm-hmm.
home with no equipment, and it be impactful. So I think we also have this idea, especially with social media, that we need to be in the gym pumping iron for 2 hours at a time. And it's
Mm-hmm.
more so for the aesthetic because you want to look a certain way. And we've
Mm-hmm.
forgotten past the just basic that you need to work out in some form for
Mm-hmm.
your health and well-being. And
Mm-hmm.
so emphasizing that in the classroom with just little different dance breaks,
Mm-hmm.
workout breaks. You can lead with some jumping jacks. I
Mm-hmm.
like to have kids take breaks with jumping jacks. Okay, now do sit down and up from your chair. That's a squat. So you're just sitting down and
Mm-hmm.
up from the chair. It gives you guidance to, don't have to have a full form of doing it without the chair, but just sitting down and up, that's getting a squat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Doing a plank hold, just little things that
Mm-hmm.
can foster some more movement in the classroom.
I like the fact that you're mentioning these intentional movement in the classroom. I know some teachers have like the stand-up desks. And so
Yeah.
so they're not just sitting down and like slouching all day. I know some not just teachers, but some people who work at home, they have those treadmill things, that are
Yeah,
attached to their
yeah, that's the
desks.
thing.
Yeah. Like I would be so distracted. Like I would be like falling off, like rolling off the treadmill.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
as much as
yeah.
I love exercise and working out, the treadmill desk didn't work
Mhm.
out for me. I did try it a little bit, and it
Oh,
was
or the
like
bikes, the stationary bikes with
the bikes. There's too much going on.
yeah, yeah.
I take my breaks. I like the movement breaks more so.
Right. Now,
Mhm.
I know your Instagram handle is Mental and Muscle. Do you share
Yeah.
any of these activities or ideas for these little movements on social media?
So I need to do a better job at sharing them. I do it more so in my workshops and when I go around, because I
Hmm.
like to be very intentional about I'm going to a specific school, I'm going to a specific business, and I like it to be tailored to the information to be tailored to that audience. But on my Instagram is more so different exercises to do, different mindset
Hmm.
practices. In the classroom setting, I will definitely
Hmm.
be sure to add more of those onto my
Yeah,
page.
I'm
But I
requesting.
do,
Yeah, I'm making that
yeah, we're
request.
requesting.
So, yeah, if you do that on Instagram and even TikTok, I'll tell all of my
Yeah,
followers and all my friends, like, follow
I
Mental and
got
Muscle.
you.
Like the whole stretching and movement while sitting down. Like as you
Yeah.
were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, I could be like rolling my
You
shoulders,
could do
forward
roll
and
the
back. And
shoulders.
yeah.
You can
Uh-huh.
also our hamstrings and all the way
Hmm.
down to our calves can get really tight from
Hmm.
sitting our hip flexors. So just driving the knee up at a 90
Hmm.
degrees, get into the hip flexor, um,
Hmm.
doing different calf raises from your seat, just things like
Hmm.
that because the
Hmm.
lower body gets very, very tight. Also your back as well. So
Hmm. Hmm.
doing anything, those shoulder rolls, bringing the arm across the chest,
Hmm.
different stretches that you
Wow.
can do
Yeah.
seated.
And for students who have a hard time focusing, that
Mm.
like, with,
Yes.
attention deficit issues, that would be very helpful.
Again, a positive and
Yeah.
intentional movement.
Yes. Uh-huh. Now, at our school, we did this thing a couple of years ago. We titled it Feed Your Soul. Instead of a staff meeting, our principal said, okay, sign up for, a station or a group that you want. So there was a group of teachers that went walking around our track. So if you wanted to go on a walk, they went on a walk. And we have a teacher who was a yoga instructor. And so there was one group who did yoga in one of the classrooms.
Oh, that's
One
I
of the
love it.
classrooms, yeah, one of the classrooms, they said they just want to listen to music and relax. So they turned down the
Yeah.
lights, had like lit a candle, and they just listened to music and they were just relaxing. Gosh, if we had some kind of a community, like even online community that led weekly or, like maybe more frequent
Hmm.
activities like that, like doing like an IG live,
Yeah. Yeah.
IG live with mental and
Hey,
muscle and
I may
mentor.
have to start this.
So
All
we
right,
start.
all right, all right. I'm up
Mhm.
for this challenge because
Yeah,
it's, again, very unique and a
there's
lot
a
of
need. Yeah.
there's a huge need. And
Hmm.
especially with just now, I feel like a lot of the information that comes from social media platforms is
Hmm.
more just like, hashtag self-care. Let's
Hmm.
go take a bath. Let's go read
Yeah.
a book, which is great. Those are great
Hmm.
self-care. But I also talk about the importance of self-development, which is something that you're actively taking the steps to learn and grow within
Hmm.
yourself versus something that's more of, it can become like an avoidance to what really the work that really needs to be done. So I like to
Right,
add
right.
both the care and development
Hmm.
piece
Hmm.
to that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Now, I know my number one excuse is I don't have time or I'm
Mhm.
too tired. And I know that like if I was more physically fit, I would be less tired. And I know that, if I have 30 minutes to scroll on TikTok, I have 30
Yes,
minutes to go
you
on a
have.
walk. Well, luckily my
Yes.
dog requires me to go on walks like like morning walks and evening walks. So that's one thing. But how can educators effectively incorporate physical wellness into their personal lives while balancing their demanding work schedule? Do you have any tips on that?
Yes. So just like you said, starting with what you can do with the time you already have and the things you're already doing. So you're already having to walk that dog in
Mm-hmm.
the morning, kind of making it more intentional though, with a time. I'm going to walk the dog at XYZ time every day and just getting into that
Mm-hmm.
routine. The more you can
Mm-hmm.
make this healthy lifestyle, wellness, physical wellness, a routine, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes part of your lifestyle. So for teachers in particular, I know if we're lucky, you get your
Mm-hmm.
lunch break, being intentional about going outside
Mm-hmm.
for that lunch break, walking, even if it's just walking to your car, that's all you have time for. Go outside, get a little bit of that vitamin D, because that's a whole
Mm-hmm.
nother area is the nutrition of physical wellness, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the
We
other
don't have
guilty
to get into
part.
that right now. Yeah, it's okay. We'll save that another time. But but for teachers in particular, making use of that lunch break if you can, and setting that boundary, right? I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
difficult thing for teachers, is setting boundaries, because teachers are very empathetic.
Right.
They want
Mm-hmm.
to, what we call compassion fatigue, wanting to help everyone. You get into the profession because you want to help
Mm-hmm.
the next generation. And
Mm-hmm.
so that age-old saying of, you can't pour from an empty cup, and having to do little things to pour within your cup is only going to make you a better teacher,
Mm-hmm.
prevent burnout, which is a big thing. It's imperative that teachers can find the time for that walk, find the time for a 30-minute some type of exercise, and that
Mm-hmm.
can be a dance, it can be Zumba, it can be a
Mm-hmm.
boxing class, and getting into
Mm-hmm.
that routine of that, getting a group of teachers to do so, holding each other accountable can only help increase the effectiveness of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think starting where you can, and getting rid of the ideal that I need to work out to look a certain way. Start
Mm-hmm.
off with, I need to work out to feel a certain way,
Right. Right.
and feel emotionally better,
Mm-hmm.
cognitively and physically.
I know with physical wellness, we talked a lot about like physical activity and
Yeah.
exercise. I would love to pick your brain more, maybe in a later episode about
Yeah.
nutrition and sleep too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I would make it a habit of going around and asking teachers, have you eaten today? Did you eat?
Oh,
Yeah. Have you had any water today?
uh-huh.
Um,
Oh.
did you sleep? How was your sleep last night? And
Mm-hmm.
just that awareness, because I feel like teachers don't even realize they've gone the whole day without eating anything.
Right.
They've gone all day without picking up their water.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Yeah.
up late last night grading. And
Mm-hmm.
just those are different parts of that physical
Aspects.
wellness,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
beyond just exercise. Making that, I like to say making time, because it's hard to
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna find, I'm gonna wait around for it. But I say make
We
the time,
have to. Yeah.
actively
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
trying to implement these
Mm-hmm.
things that only help you in the long run, only helps you for your students
Mm-hmm.
and for yourself.
Is there something teachers can do for students to spark their lifelong love of physical well-being?
Yes, so I don't want to put this all on teachers. I think the best way is having that whole community approach. So I would love if some teachers were to assign this as homework or whatever you may say, that's maybe with your family member exploring one way to get some exercise in, and having to document, maybe write about it, take a picture. So that incorporates the family as well. Because again, we talk about what we do in the school, but then if they're going home to a lifestyle that doesn't support healthy physical well-being, it's not going to stick for the long run. So what teachers could do is really getting the family, parents, caregiver involved in exploring their
Mm-hmm.
interests for physical well-being. And that also allows for that unique approach within the home setting, and not always having to take up the extra time in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know teachers are already pressed for time and getting through the lesson, and that can be different activities, and they come back and report. So it's also other students learning what other students may do at home for interest in physical activities. Maybe it could also be exploring different healthier food options, maybe going
Mm-hmm.
home, finding, okay, what's something that you could eat instead of that bag of chips, just different explorations, and
Mm-hmm.
again, getting to that practical piece of it,
Mm-hmm.
being intentional on changing and improving their physical well-being.
And then when you mentioned their family members and caregivers and also their friends, encouraging them to find accountability groups,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Because I that's what I always need. I need somebody to say like, "Hey, let's go work out," or "Hey, let's go do this."
yeah,
Finding that
yeah.
too.
And that's why I love doing
Mm-hmm.
group fitness, and just
Mm-hmm.
having a unified group, and like you say, accountability. We're all in this together. We're
Mm-hmm.
all, again, we're not all coming from the same background, not coming at the same fitness level, but we're all able to do this together is
Mm-hmm.
important, especially with
Right.
students, and they are dependent on
Mm-hmm.
their family and caregivers. So
Mm-hmm.
let's all work together for this area of making our lifestyles healthy, and it only helps the parents and caregivers as well.
Mm-hmm. Maya, you mentioned something about meet yourself where you're at. How do you know where you're at? Like if somebody were to ask me, I'm like, I think I'm a certain way. I know one time I did like a We Fit test and it
Yes.
told me I was obese and that kind of put me
Oh my
into a little
goodness.
bit of a depression. So how does one know like where they're at?
Kind of some self-assessment is, and it's misleading because I'll use an example as having ran track, right? Ran track, what do we do for each race? We all start at the same point, and we all start on the same point in the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very misleading in thinking that we're all going into this at the same starting point, into our health journey, into our mental health journey. And knowing, when I say meet yourself where you are, that's knowing that we aren't all starting at the same starting point. We all come from different backgrounds and different experiences that have gotten us to this point where we are mentally or physically, and being comfortable with that, being okay with that. And because a lot of people will be in denial of where they are, and the first step is that acceptance of, this is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a lot of former athletes, and an issue with them, a concern of theirs, is that they're not at that same point that they were, whether they were a high school athlete, a collegiate
Mm-hmm.
athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us did some type of sport,
Yeah. We call it
in
the Al
school.
Bundy moment. Like always like you're probably too young for, to know that.
I
But
might
like,
not know what that
yeah,
is.
like I know. Oh gosh. Kind of like
It's
always like
okay.
living, the glory days of high school and these kind of
Hmm.
so
Yeah, so I say, okay, we've got to meet ourselves where we're at. We are not back in high school when we're at our prime, or college
Mhm.
at our prime physical. You have to meet yourself where you are at now as an adult, knowing that I'm not going to have that same energy and flexibility that I
Mhm.
did when I was a kid, but getting to where I can now. And so just your original question of how to determine that, the
Mhm.
best and most accurate way would be with a professional in either the physical or mental health space,
Mhm.
but doing some self-assessments of just when you're sitting down and noticing, is something aching, is something popping,
Mhm.
is it harder for me to get up, am I feeling when I'm walking through the school, am I feeling winded? And that can be a baseline to where you want to get to a point where I'm not winded when I walk up
Mhm.
the 3 floors or the 3 floors to my apartment.
Mhm.
Using those more practical baselines versus if we aren't able to go to see a professional, starting
Mhm.
with that. And then mentally, it would be having awareness of the certain thoughts that you're having, the certain emotions that you're having. And maybe it was, if you want to start off with, I was feeling when I was scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, and I find myself feeling like I'm comparing myself, feeling bad about where my
Mhm.
body is, and
Mhm.
working through some of those self-esteem, confidence, increasing that. And then now when I'm scrolling, I don't feel like I'm comparing as much. I feel like I'm more inspired
Mhm.
by these people on Instagram versus feeling threatened by them. And
Mhm.
that those can be more practical baselines and
Yeah.
examinations for yourself.
Yeah. I started out the episode feeling very guilty, but now I feel very motivated and inspired.
Yes, yes.
As you're talking, I'm like, what
Agreed.
are some small ways I can make adjustments to my daily, like, like
Yeah.
teaching hours? I teach on the second floor, and I'm very guilty of taking the elevator because we have an elevator at the end of
Yes.
the hallway.
Get those
All
stairs,
right.
girl. Get
I will go up and
out.
down the stairs as unless I'm carrying something heavy. I
Of
will
course.
make that pledge to take the stairs more often.
Great.
That I
Yes.
think that's one way.
Yes, that
Okay,
is that
so
is one. Or another
yeah.
one that I would do
Mhm,
when I was working in schools is instead of calling
mhm,
another teacher or calling to get the student, I would go walk to
mhm.
the other teacher's classroom or
Okay.
walk to go get the student. Just adding that
Mhm.
the walking movement
Extra steps,
also
yeah.
helps
All
the
right.
steps in.
All right, Maya, we have a segment on our podcast called Tag Your It, where our listeners write in with the questions for us to answer, for the host and the guest to answer. Today's question comes from Steve H. And the first question is, what are some things you do on your own personal time for your physical well-being? What is a favorite physical activity that you do?
Yes, a favorite physical activity that I do has to be strength training. There was a time when I was called number 11. I was in track team and I
Mm-hmm.
was called number 11. We didn't have numbers, but we would all like to choose our own numbers. And mine was given to me as 11 because I
Mm-hmm.
just had these stick legs. And so
Oh.
I was just,
Uh-huh.
I just had these little stick legs in freshman year of high school. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, being able to just really, again, beyond the aesthetics. Yes, I've built some nice leg muscles now. Can't call me
Mm-hmm.
number 11 now, but it was just beyond that is just feeling so empowered every time I'm able to pick up some weights. And it's taken a while to be able to do so correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to, do some with proper form.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that strength training and
Mm.
lifting weights is a very exciting thing I like to do for my physical well-being, but more on a just daily, more practical thing is walking
Mm.
and taking every opportunity. Like today, I was going from the mall to another location and it was about half a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to walk versus
Mm-hmm.
to drive over there
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and taking the stairs. And I
Mm-hmm.
do I'm very noticeable of that, and like, okay, I'm getting my extra steps in. So I would say I also enjoy just finding little ways to make changes and add that walking component.
Great. And you kind of touched up on this before earlier. Did you always love PE? You said you were that kid who always liked that physical activity.
Yes, I always liked physical activity. And I was reflecting on this. I do have a picture in elementary school. My PE teacher and I were like the very, very close, because I would just go take off running, and I would be ready to help him set up any physical activity we had for the day. So overall, yes, I definitely was that kid that loved PE, and still that kid or adult now, the inner child in me still gets excited over, group fitness class where I get to look back to that PE in that group setting.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for motivating me personally, and I know all of our listeners will be very motivated to get out there and implement a lot of these little activities and intentional movements that you discussed. Great.
Yeah.
And if people wanted to find out more about your business,
Yes.
Mental and Muscle, where can they go?
Yes. So you can email me if you have a direct inquiry. Maya@mentalandmuscle.com. It's also, if you're more comfortable sending me a DM on Instagram as well, that is possible, or LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Maya, for being on our show. We feel very motivated. So everyone, let's get out there and start walking.
Yes, just start where you're at. That's all. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to be, a ninja warrior like your PE.
Go climb a wall.
Yes. But just start somewhere.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prioritizing physical and emotional well-being is essential for both teachers and students. By incorporating healthy habits into their daily lives, they can create a positive and productive learning environment. Thank you for joining us for the 8th episode of the Schoolyard podcast. Remember to pack your curiosity and meet us back in the schoolyard for our next episode. Tag You're It. Now it's your turn to write in with a question, which we will answer here on the Schoolyard podcast for our segment called Tag You're It. Tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter @SchoolSpecialty and hashtag Schoolyard Tag You're It with a question that you want answered. One question will be selected per episode to be answered by our featured guest and myself. And if your question is chosen to be answered on the podcast, we'll send you a very special Schoolyard podcast t-shirt. Class dismissed.